So right now we're going to talk about how to graph a radical function. The trickiest thing about graphing radical functions is you can't just plug any number in for x if you want to do it in your head. Why not? Well, think about it. If you plugged a 1 into this equation, you do 1 plus 2, which is 3, and then you have to take the square root of 3. So if you don't want to grab a calculator, that's not going to be very handy for you. So we want to make sure that whatever is underneath that square root is a perfect square. So let's start here then by looking at the domain. So in order to find the domain, remember you set the radicand, which is x plus 2 in this case, greater than or equal to 0. Why? Well, the number under here can't be negative, right? We can't take the square root of negative 4. That's just not possible. It's an imaginary number. So we need to know what numbers it is possible for. So I'm going to do that by setting it greater than or equal to 0 and solving. So when I subtract 2 from both sides, I get x has to be bigger than negative 2. So I'm going to start my table over here. Okay, and negative 2 is going to be my first starting point. Because it's my end point, it is where the graph has to end. So I'm going to plug in that negative 2 to figure out what y is. So negative 2 plus 2, which is 0. Is anyone surprised by that? Didn't we set it equal to 0 over here? So it should equal 0. So the square root of 0 is 0. All right, so the trickier part becomes the next one, right? So the next perfect square after 0 is 1. So essentially, we need to think of this backwards. What number do I need to plug in for x to get positive 1? So what number would have to go right here to get positive 1 if I'm adding 2? If I add 2 to get positive 1, I would need a negative 1, right? 2 minus 1 is 1. So negative 1 is going to be my next x. And when I do that, I get the square root of 1, which is just 1. Okay, so we're going to look at the next one. My next perfect square is 4, right? 2 squared is 4. So what number would I need right here to get 4? What plus 2 is 4? 2. So that's my next x. My next x is 2. When I take the square root of 4, I get 2. My next perfect square is 9. So what number plus 2 gives me 9? 7. So 7, and then what's the square root of 9? 3. That's as far as I'm going to make you go, because otherwise it's more than 10. So we're going to look at this graph now. So I'm going to plot my order pairs for my table. So negative 2, 0. Negative 1, positive 1. 2, 1, 2, 2. And lastly, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3. There you go. There is your square root function.